Out of all this chaos we're going through, or the rapid changes the world is being mutated through, Terence McKenna, for instance, has calculated this rate of information and novelty is going to, in 2012, reach the point where information is doubling every day, and then by midsummer it's doubling every hour. And in December it'll be doubling every second, and then every millionth of a second, at which point we encounter a transcendental object and history ends. I don't know what the hell that last part means. Let Terence explain that himself. In all this chaos and rapid change, I think I can see certain trajectories emerging. Human lifespan in ancient Rome was about 30 years. It didn't change much through most of history. With all the doublings of knowledge up to 1750, the average lifespan of the working class was still less than 30 years, and the aristocrats didn't live much longer. 37 years was average. In 19th century England, Engels studied the statistics, and in his book The Condition of the Working Class in England found that the average working class family only survived 37 years. By 1900, the insurance companies were keeping records, and life expectancy for all classes in the industrial democracies was 50 years. By the Second World War, it was up to 60 years. It was 73 years when I started writing about life extension in the 70s. Now it's up to 78 years. George Burns is 97 and has taken a booking to appear at a Las Vegas nightclub on his 100th birthday, and he was asked if he's sure that that'll work out, and he says, well, if they're still there, I'll be ready. And meanwhile, there's more research on the immune system and other things connected with longevity right now than there has ever been. There are more scientists alive than there has ever been. Most people in longevity research, and I've interviewed a lot of them, expect a major breakthrough sometime in the next decade or so, the next couple of decades. A human lifespan will not be calculated in decades, but in centuries. Nobody knows how many centuries. This is still a wide open field. You get predictions like we can extend human lifespan to 400 years. We can extend it to 700 years. The conservatives say 140 years. We just don't know. But the research that's going on indicates that most people are going to live a lot longer than they expect, especially since war is getting phased out as a method of resolving conflicts. Along with that, Clinton is now pushing, President Clinton, or Slick Willie, as Rush Limbaugh prefers to call him. Clinton is the only president in my lifetime that I would like to have for dinner because I could carry on an intelligent conversation with him. He tries to hide his intelligence as much as possible. You've got to do that in American politics. But I heard him say counterintuitive one time in his speech. Anybody who can use the word counterintuitive and knows what it means is a Rhodes Scholar, which as a matter of fact he is. Of course, he's got to hide it as much as possible. In the early days of this republic, Jefferson, Adams, Madison, they were all intellectuals. This country elected intellectuals. Then we brought in a lot of cheap labor, and they wanted to be represented by people of their own intellectual level, and it got to the point that by the time of Ronald Reagan, you had to act like an idiot to get elected because anybody with any brains was regarded with extreme suspicion. If you want to know why Reagan got the biggest majority in American political history, just think there's nobody you can imagine who felt intellectually inferior to Ronald Reagan. You could go to the Home for the Feeble-Minded and ask them, what do you think of Ronald Reagan? And they'd say, oh, we love him. He's a regular fella, just like us. Boo. And I think George Bush was pretty smart. No morals, but a lot of brains. But he did his best to hide his brains. They all do. But Clinton, as I was saying before that digression, has proposed a joint Russian-American space station, which is something I've been urging since even before the Cold War ended. I thought it would be a good way to end the Cold War if we started cooperating in space. It's obvious that space colonies are going to be built. Harry Stein, the engineer, has calculated there are 10 to the 100th power industrial processes that can be done cheaper in space. That means everything can be 10 to the 100th power cheaper than it is now. People are going to be moving into space to take advantage of that. And most of our communication technology is in space already. Most people don't realize every time you turn on the television, if you go channel surfing, half of what you look at is coming to you from outer space by way of satellites. Heavy industry will be following communication industry into space to take advantage of all the things that can be done cheaper out there. Once you got a lot of engineers out there, it's going to be like prison, no women. They're going to get horny and angry and sullen, so they're going to have to be allowed to bring their families, and that means there'll have to be schools. And then they'll want, of course, their own food. They'll have groceries, supermarkets, and then they'll want theaters and circuses. Pretty soon everybody will be going into space, some just temporarily, like circuses on their worldwide tours will include a visit to the L5 space colony, or L6 or whatever, or Proxmire. I'm all in favor of having a space station named Proxmire after the guy who has opposed space research more vigorously than anybody else. I want people wandering around 25 years from now saying, why is this place called Proxmire? And then people will tell them about Senator Proxmire, and they'll all have a good laugh. Meanwhile, all this longevity research is going on. You project forward the general trajectory of where things are going and the acceleration. We're going to have people, maybe not this generation or the next, we're going to have people living hundreds of years, and breakthroughs in propulsion systems mean we're moving into a Star Trek world. People will be moving all over the galaxy, eventually out of the galaxy. And life extension will go on. Research in that will not suddenly reach a limit. We never do reach limits. That's one of the big fallacies of our time, is the idea of limits. There are no limits. So eventually we are graduating from being terrestrial mortals to becoming cosmic immortals. We are becoming the gods that we imagined a long time ago. I think that's where evolution has been pointing. As Nietzsche said, what is man? A bridge between the ape and the Superman, a bridge over an abyss. I think we've passed over the abyss. Getting through the Hitler and Stalin eras and Auschwitz and Hiroshima and all those horrors, we've gone over the abyss. And now we are graduating into cosmic immortals, as startling as it sounds. That wasn't very funny, was it? But think about it.